Oh yeah, Josh.
Oh, and to all the candidates, I had this question earlier. Feel free to bring your laptop here if you want. I personally don't like laptops, but that's okay.
Do the other people have to leave the room?
Yes.
Okay.
The other candidate, please leave the room.
Ty, you're on, bro.
Thank you.
That's my
And can we close it?
I was like, Ty's not the candidate.
Ty's our bouncer.
Yes, you are.
Shit, sorry.
I'm like over it, but I don't really care.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, wait, you're on.
Okay, y'all ready? Oh, and like before, like please don't exit the room or enter the room in between the Q&As. And yeah. Okay, in 5 minutes. All right, you have 5 minutes starting now. Oh wait, I'll start it when they give you a question.
Okay, so Josh, how will you, as a freshman, be able to adequately handle conflict amongst upperclassmen?
Okay, I get this as a common question, especially as a first year running for IVP for the position. And I'd like to say that one, I don't think class or age has to do anything with conflict. Personally, I can oversee that because conflict is conflict at the base of it. It's still two people arguing, and I deduce that the way I would any other situation, any other org. It isn't special for Troy Philippines. I handle it very step-by-step basis. First, I meet with each party, of course, just to see what the root of this underlying problem is. And then once I'm able to talk with each separate person, I can kind of get a gauge of where the situation is. And from there, I'd like to organize a meeting where we can all meet. I'll try to lead this meeting like cordially, of course, and very respectively. Try to make this a safe space for everyone, especially since there's probably like quite a bit of tension. And then we can hopefully agree on some sort of middle ground. And then after that, of course, it's really important, I think, that once you solve the problem to kind of check up on them, because once you solve the problem, there may be some residual issues. So I think it's also important to check up after the solution has been kind of met.
Thank you. What would you have wanted to integrate in the leadership program as a result of your experience?
Okay, so I served in leadership cohort for fall 2023, so this past semester, and I really liked everything that leadership had to offer, but some things that I would change up with the programming, I would really, I'd like to add more like hands-on kind of like experiences. I really liked all the My Why and the cultural presentations, but whenever we had like an e-board member come in and speak with the leadership, either whether that's Kyra and development helping with resume workshops, or Zeke coming in, they were all really helpful, so I really like that. But I also would like to provide our leadership cohort an opportunity to shadow what e-board functions like. I know there was the mandatory like visit an e-board meeting at least once a month, but that was kind of like just to see. I really like the intern experience where you get to see how like one position specifically does. So maybe like shadowing e-board positions. I also like the trip to Hi-Fi for Sunday Jump. Just general more interactive activities than just sort of like sitting there and like going through the agenda. I really would like to add on.
Thank you. Next question. How will you balance Troy Phi with your other commitments?
Okay. For those of you that may not know, I'm a pre-med student. I'm also involved in the admissions center. I'm a tour guide. So I think balancing time is always something that I have to work with, especially both academically and extracurricularly. But I do always say I am always ready to make time, whether that's at the sacrifice of my sleep or these things that I have for personal enjoyment. I do have the time to make for Troy Phi. I did it this semester and last semester. I attended every e-board meeting last semester. I was an intern this semester, leadership last semester. I do reserve this time for Troy Phi because I am so passionate and ready to set time for this club for me to work.
Thank you for that answer. Your next question, as IVP, how would you ensure that everyone feels welcomed and not left out in big social settings?
Okay, so when I hear this like not feeling out, for the first thing I think of is like clickiness within Troy Phi. I know this cliques, especially with FAMs, has been a point of contention, things that people really want to talk about, which is why like I believe like these really small, it starts at the base level. You know, if you folks know me, I like to smile a lot. Just these small habitual things that make everyone feel welcome. I try to talk to people at GMs. So like small events at the beginning of every meeting, like greeting someone at the door, having someone station. I really like the idea of like having my leadership cohort, you know, lead an opening activity, you know, while there's announcements going on, just so everyone can get to know each other, kind of break that ice a little bit. And as it comes for like member retention, you know, so they aren't feeling left out like each semester, I think it's really important to change the programming, maybe not every year, but at least every other year, every couple years or so, have like different things so it's not only like repetitive for our returning members, you know, you keep things fresh, but also equally as welcoming for the new members that are coming into Troy 5.
Okay, we're gonna end it at that, but thank you so much, guys. All right, give it up for Kay. All right.
Joyce.
Your first question is, how will you prevent burnout in board members?
Yeah, so what I want to do to help prevent burnout in board members is do something like Scott is doing now with the weekly check-in forums. I believe that those have been really beneficial even when I was an intern, since it helped keep me in check of what my priorities are and if I need some extra help. And keeping that form up will also help e-board members in order to see like if they're feeling burnout or not, and if I'm able to fully support them through that burnout, if that's even through like talking with them, hanging with them, or even just like going through like a plan of like how they could help prevent that burnout, if they need to prioritize on schoolwork more, or if there's anything as me as potential IBP to help support them throughout that.
How would you respond? Oh, sorry. Thank you, Kay. Next question. How would you respond to conflicting perspectives during an e-board meeting while ensuring the discussion is still productive?
Yeah, so I am someone who's able to put my own values and issues aside during a conversation, and I'm someone who is able to mediate a conversation peacefully. Like for example, in one of my other organizations, there was a conflict that was being addressed throughout the e-board members on that organization, and with that conflict, I was able to be the middle person forward to bring those individuals together and come up with a plan on how to deal with the issue, what problems arise from that issue, and also like talk to them through of like what is something like each of them felt and how to like kind of like come with a solution, not even if it's not solution, steps to move forward with that process as well. But yeah.
Thank you. Your next question is, how has your experience as previous IVP intern prepared you for this role?
Yeah, so during my fall semester this year, I had the pleasure to be under Jing as IVP intern. This position helped me prepare for IVP if elected, because I was able to shadow them and see how the cohort was able to develop and grow with that. I was able to help make the agendas, be able to help with the timeline, and also see how members' input of each event as well, since I was in charge of the member, the feedback form during my time as IVP intern.
Thank you. Your next question is, how will you handle comments of clique culture?
So comments of clique culture is something that like can't be like, clique culture happens everywhere, but it could be something that is mediated. Something that I want to do with that is that with every general meeting or event that we have, I want to be able to encourage like e-boarders, interns, leadership to talk to someone new during each meeting, because I feel like that's something that could really help with clique culture, where if we talk to like someone that we never met before, or just like someone who's new, like for example in like a first general meeting, their impression of Troy Fry relies on us as e-boarders, interns, leadership, since we're the ones who are leaders of the club. So with that being said, our experience experiences and interacting with them shapes their perspective of Troy Phi. And if we're able to like talk to each member, even if it's just a little like, hey, like I like your shirt, I like your shoes or anything like that, and make them feel welcome, I feel like that's something that could also help too. Something that has been done in past years as well is interest groups. I feel like that was something that really helped bring people together, and even if like you never expected to talk to someone that like you see like in general meetings, you're able to talk to someone that you're able to talk to them if you guys have the same interests as well with interest groups.
Okay, and then your last question is, how will you balance Troy Phi with your other commitments?
Yeah, so during the semester, during this year actually in general, I was holding 5 different e-board positions in each of my organizations that I'm in. With that, next year, my time commitments and organization commitments is going to decrease significantly, as well as my class workload. So I'll be able to devote more time to being internal vice president, since again, like I'll have more time to devote and dedicate to Troy Phi as well. And I feel like I'm really good at being balanced, as well as my position as secretary currently. I've still been able to push out the newsletters on time every Sunday, as well as get the e-board agendas in every Friday or Saturday as well.
Cool, thank you. That's all the questions.
Thank you.
Can we please get Zeke and then Abby, can you please sit down? Thank you. All right, get it up for Zeke. Okay.
Oh, Zeke.
Okay, Zeke, for your first question, how do you plan to connect with other Filipino student orgs in SoCal beyond socials?
One thing I talked about at my speech especially is kind of like reaching out with them and like finding more overlap and kind of like how we can work together, like philanthropy, joint advocacy events, and fundraising events. I feel like there's so many other things we can do besides going to them, having a party, going to the beach, having a social event like that. So it's kind of finding the middle ground. It's like, hey, what are you guys trying to work on? What's kind of like your guys' advocacy focuses for this semester? What you're trying to accomplish? And then I reflect back to what our organization is, talk to the correct people in our organization. And what I said in my speech, I'm kind of the bridge, I'm the connector here. So putting them in connection with the correct people and then finding those middle grounds for what other things we can work on together collaboratively.
Thank you. In your speech, you mentioned that advocacy is a major part of your vision and role. What experience do you have in advocacy?
So outside of Troy Phi, another big commitment I had this year was being a part of USG. Specifically, I was in one of the legislative standing committees, the Affordability and Basic Needs Committee. So my job there was primarily, like, again, advocating that students' needs were here on campus in order for them to be as successful as they can be. One of the projects that I tried working on this year was having, and we all know, like in the dorms, for a lot of them, there's no AC, New North, Burncrant, Party, all these places. So one thing, that project I was working on, collaboration with another organization within USC, was having a fan distribution, where at the end of the year, we collect all the fans that are unused and distribute it to the students who can't afford to have like 2 or 3 more fans, and giving them those opportunities to do so. That's just one of the projects we're working on. That talks too much, but that's other advocacy experiences I've had specifically from this year.
Thank you, Zeke. Next question. Considering how many opinions will be present in a 20-person board, how will you balance sticking with your values while respecting the values of others?
Well, for one thing, yes, a lot of us are here for personal reasons and in Troy Phi, but I feel like in leadership positions especially when there is a conflict, you have to separate the personal from the professional. Understanding when you're arguing with somebody, you're not arguing them as someone outside this club, you're arguing them as a fellow leader. And at the end of the day, you're not doing no one would try to argue for something that's bad, that they believe is wrong, and understanding that they're trying to do what they believe is correct. And one thing that I've really tried to work on this year especially was really like understanding others, and honestly just knowing when to stop talking and listening to their point. And the word tolerance has such a strong connotation behind it, but it really is just that. It's understanding that you might have disagreements, putting that aside and accepting that, okay, what I might believe might be different from yours, but if I believe what you're doing is the best for the club, even if it's not what I think it is, but you're doing the best that you can better than I could, that's one way that I would really appreciate others' opinions. And a lot of people say our board's too big and it's hard to like handle all those opinions and sizes, but what that happens is that you end up hearing all these other sides and perspectives from other people, and from then you can kind of concise, scope, and hone into what you can really get from all those people, what they bring to the table, synergize, and then move forward to what you can do best.
Thank you, Zeke. In the event that you do get into the DC program, how will you fulfill your responsibilities as EVP, and why should we still vote for you?
For one, as I said, like as EVP, external vice president, my job is to be the connector, the bridge between our organization and other organizations here at USC, SoCal, and beyond. And one thing that I've really learned as social chair this year is that you don't necessarily need to have a face-to-face conversation to have a meaningful connection with somebody and make good work done. When Kay and I were struggling to find venues, to figure out the porta potty situation and all these other external factors, we weren't sitting down having a coffee chat with somebody. We were texting them, having phone calls, sending emails. And you don't need to be even like in the same area to make those meaningful connections. As I'm sure a lot of us have done a lot of networking, just given the very professional culture of USC, I believe that just being 3 hours away in a different time zone, I'll still be able to make those meaningful connections for our organization to grow, to be fruitful, to kind of increase our community engagement. Even though I may not be in the 90089 zip code, I'll still be able to make, thank you, I'll still be able to make those meaningful connections even though I'm not here, and as well as working at home base to make sure that my presence is still here. I'm aware, I'm involved, I'm up to date. I'm talking to the people I know who can like give me updates like, hey, what's going on with the club? What happened with this one? Yes, I'll read the agenda, I'll go to board meetings and everything, but again, talking to people like, hey, how did this go? How did that go? So I'm updated. So even though I'm not here, I'm still here.
Thank you, that's all the time we have.
Okay, that's fine.
Give it up for Abby.
Okay, so Abby, for your first question, EVP is a huge role that deals with both internal and external processes. How can you be effective in your position without having been any e-board role before in Troy 5?
So I was able to witness 3 EVPs during my time in Troy 5, and I've seen how they operated before. They've all operated very differently, and I will use their experiences to shape mine. And I've also been in leadership and intern twice for Troy 5. So although I have not been on e-board, I do have experience with some inner workings of Troy 5.
Thank you. Being unelected and head of a dynamic committee such as the socials requires a degree of firmness and leadership. We don't doubt your capacity for compassion and understanding, but how can you be steadfast to foster results as a leader?
So I understand that some people may view me as very ongoing, I'll go with the flow kind of person, but I do know when to put my foot down in certain decisions, especially from seeing what I've witnessed for board this past year. I know when I can put my foot down on certain decisions that I know I will make.
Thank you, Abby. And the next question, do you have experience throwing/managing events that will translate to events such as friendship games, tailgates, fundraisers, etc., such as Troy, etc.?
Although I don't have experience with specific like social events such as those, I do have experience, like I said in my speech, with hosting the PACN mixer with SC Pasa. That required a lot of externalizing with 20 different schools and organizations, and having to email them and contact them regularly. So although I haven't done social before, I do have experience with planning an event that required not only people from board, but also people from other boards from other schools.
Thank you, Abby. Your next question is, how will you increase member retention?
Yeah, so I believe member retention is one of the huge things that has been addressed this past year within Troy 5. So I think I want to address member retention by starting with eBoard. I think it's important that eBoard be receptive to GMs because, not gonna lie, GMs do put e-board on a higher pedestal, especially when they're new. So I want to implement some sort of system that allows e-boarders and possibly interns and leadership to interact with new GMs. Maybe like have like have one e-boarder, intern, or leadership interact with at least one person, one GM, possibly get an Instagram. Little things like those will definitely keep member retention, since a lot of people will see e-board and any other leadership position as higher.
Thank you. Your next question is, you said that you will be graduating a semester early. How would that affect your role as EVP?
I'll actually be here in LA throughout the entire year, so if anything, I'll have more time at the spring semester, and I also have 2 days free on the fall semester, so either way, I still have a lot of time to dedicate to EVP, both fall and spring semester.
Thank you, Abby. Next question. What will you do to ensure TP's readiness for friendship games?
So I want to implement some stuff over the summer. I think one of the main problems that we had this past year was that we started really late. And although I know there is this 3-week rule that campus activities is implementing, but I have some workarounds through that. For example, we can do somewhere in the Great Lawn, since that's off campus. Somewhere in that lawn outside of McCarthy. We can also do the Gateway Plaza, since that's also off campus. And again, I want to start advertising for friendship games during the first or second week, since because of that 3-week rule, and because of that first and second week advertising, I want to start practices on that 3rd week on Monday and Tuesday. And not only that, I know another problem with FG was people in multiple games had to pick and choose which games they had to practice for, and some of them might have felt like behind in certain games. So I want to implement some sort of like weekly schedule for certain games so that people don't have to pick and choose which games they have to practice for and not feel left behind.
Okay, thank you. For your last question, Abby, what do you envision Troy Phi as during your time as EVP? For example, more cultural stuff, social, etc.
I do want to keep a good mix of social and cultural, but as my role as EVP, what I see for Troy Phi, I want it to be more of a cultural org. Obviously, I don't want to abolish socials, because I do love the socials, but I do think we should also emphasize the cultural aspect of our organization and also the advocacy aspect. And although I'm not really well versed in advocacy, I'm more than willing to dive into that, because I think that Troy Phi is at its core an advocacy organization, not only social or cultural.
Thank you, Abby. That's all good. All right. Next. Oh, okay. Up next is going to be a video from Josh and Rico. So Lily, can you step up? Thank you.
Can we like play a mute though?
Huh? Mute? I know. All right.
What do your time commitments look like for next semester?
For next semester, and I guess junior year in general, I don't have too much plans. Of course, my only commitment really that I put a bunch of effort to is Troy Phi. Alongside that, I'm also in charge of esports, where I'm a graphic designer and video editor, so I'm on the content team. And I also play for the Overwatch team, embarrassingly. And then tentatively, just very tentative, I also just applied for the Academic Culture Assembly Board as graphics too. And then as well as just course load, I'm taking a pretty less demanding course load that I have this school year and just this semester. And so yeah, next semester, next year in general should be pretty light in terms of workload and time commitments.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that answer. For your next question, treasurer is the position that works with every single other board member. How can you be effective in your role after not serving on e-board before and experiencing the dynamic and needs of each position?
So first, I would, whenever there's a GM plan or any fundraising event plan that is for a specific position, I guess for example, if Pace directors were to do like a fundraiser, or just like programming were to do like a fundraiser for Team Combine. I would meet with them one-on-one directly, schedule maybe like a 1 hour meeting. Can be 30 minutes to an hour, depends on how long it needs to be, and depends on how demanding, I guess, quote unquote, the event is. And so I would meet with every board position one-on-one, discuss like any logistics with about the event, or just like how finances are going to be taken care of properly and transparently. And then as for experience with not being on board, yes, I do recognize that I haven't been on board. I've been an intern just this semester for secretary and PACE, and last semester I was on leadership. But I would definitely say I know how like board dynamics are, because last semester I went to at least like half the board meetings, and then this semester I would say I went to at least like 75% of board meetings. And then being a secretary and PACE intern is definitely, I would say, the workload of like a board member, because I would create like, I've created every single alumni newsletter. I've created at least like a month's worth of newsletters. And then as a PACE director intern, I've done a lot for PACE. Like the whole entire Short Pie fundraiser was primarily me, but I will give credit to the other interns, but it was primarily me. I was the spearhead for it. And so, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then moving on to your next question. So events this year were pretty expensive. What are some new ideas you want to implement to help pull us out of the negative?
I guess pull us out of the negative. I want to reach out to like external like organizations or like businesses like near in the like USC area, and maybe do collaborations with them. Just like the Chipotle fundraiser we just did, that was a pretty easy fundraiser, while also like enjoying some Chipotle. So I also want to do that with other organizations, just like in the USC area, and also like in Hi-Fi. I want to get connected to Hi-Fi as much as possible, because it is a little bit away, and so I want to keep like, I want to maintain a very good connection with Hi-Fi, like just because we know we're Filipinos, and I want to stay rooted in our Filipino identity. And then also in terms of fundraiser, I know this is a little bit of a stretch, and it is kind of, I guess, ambitious of me, but I want to do like a fundraiser with each board position. It doesn't have to be like, I don't know, like every single board position has their own fundraiser. Of course, there can be like collaborations within like different board positions. So I guess PACE directors and maybe director of development, they can do fundraising together. But I would definitely want to do a lot more fundraisers, because I would say fundraisers are a key component of, I guess, collecting money and like making sure we don't go into the negatives like this year or like previous years as well.
Oh, that's it. All right. Okay, can we like, yeah. All right, give it up for Lily.
For your first question, how will you use your PACE director experience as treasurer?
Yeah, so I think one of the main things that I learned as PACE director is just learning a lot more about how Troy Phi works, like from an e-board level, like just learning about all the different expenses that we have, and just kind of learning about kind of how we've handled situations with money in the past and how we can kind of learn from those experiences. I also think that I learned a lot more about keeping organized. Like, I had so many spreadsheets and just keeping everything, keeping track of everything, making sure I'm on top of all my responsibilities. And so I think that those skills really come in handy as treasurer.
Thank you. What are some merchandise ideas that you have for the upcoming year?
Yeah, so I want to keep a lot of what we currently have. So I want to make sure we have like a t-shirt and a sweater option. And then also like a lot of like smaller items, because I know sometimes people don't want to like make a big purchase, they'd rather just get something little. So making sure we have a lot of sticker options as well as like pins and keychains. Something else I was thinking is, I know that like our like stickers that have like pop culture elements, kind of like the Jollibee ones, like the Valentine's Day one, and like the Sunny Angel ones, they all tend to sell really well. So I want to incorporate more like pop culture elements to kind of appeal to people not only in the club but also outside of the club as well.
Thank you, Lily. Next question. Do you think raising dues would be a feasible way to make more money?
I'd really prefer not to raise dues, just because, kind of like what I mentioned in my speech, like I think Troy Fi already kind of has a lot of things that you have to pay for, and I really prefer not to raise any of those if possible. So I think I want to instead focus on like fundraising earlier, looking for more donations, looking for more sponsorships, and just being more proactive about that so that we can try to avoid raising dues if possible.
Thank you. Your next question is, elaborate on how we can host more budget-friendly events through Troy Fi.
Sure. I think, like I said, kind of like focusing on maybe fundraising from outside sources so that we can get more money that way instead of asking our members and relying on them. One thing I was thinking was reaching out to maybe do more collab fundraisers with other orgs so that we're not taking on all of the cost ourselves. So that's something I can maybe work with EVP and just other e-boarders with, to work with other USC orgs and maybe other like SE PASA orgs to kind of have like joint like events and joint fundraising efforts so that, again, we're not like taking on all of the cost ourselves.
Thank you, Lily. Next question. How will you be transparent to general members and board about current funds, etc.?
Sure. So one thing I want to implement is like kind of a monthly expenses snapshot in the newsletter. I would want to work with secretary on that just so that people can kind of like at the beginning of every month, like plan what events they'd be willing to go to and how much they're willing to spend per month on Troy Fi, so that way we're not like surprising anybody with anything. I'd also want to make sure that I'm keeping track maybe again on like a monthly basis and kind of updating board on like our spending and kind of the budget outlook for that part of the year.
For your last question, what do your time commitments look like for next semester?
For next semester, I'm taking 16 units, so I'm anticipating my course load to be relatively similar to what I have now, so I feel pretty confident with my ability to handle that. I'm also going to be taking on like a job in Viterbi as like an engineering freshman coach, so I think that'll definitely be a little bit more, but I feel like I can definitely handle it, especially because like as an intern and now as an e-board, like I've already gotten in the habit of dedicating a lot of time to Troy Fi, and I'm definitely willing to put in those days and any time that I need to in order to help TP be successful.
Cool, thank you. That wraps it up. Thank you. All right, that wraps. Hello. Yes, that wraps up our election runoffs. So, everyone, now, yes. For what?
What do your time commitments?
So now.